Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's great to see all of your faces here this morning. I love that we can all come together here this fine Sunday morning. And I'm super excited, as I know a lot of you are as well, to just see what God is going to do through this series that we're starting today. I know I'm looking forward to learning as we listen and as Colin speaks to us this morning. But before that, I have some announcements for you. There's always lots of exciting things happening here at PAC, and this week is no exception. So we have a parent education evening coming up. So if you are a parent and you have a really young child or you have a teenager, you are welcome to come to this night where Nathan is going to talk to us about how to talk to our kids about eternity. Sometimes kids come home with these really big questions and we don't really know how to even enter into that conversation with them. So Nathan will answer some of those questions and give us some really helpful tools to be able to do that. So that is on Thursday, the event at 7 p.m. here, but you need to sign up by Tuesday, the 24th on mypac.tv. If you head there, there'll be a way that you can do that through there. Next, it's exciting news. If you are a young adult in this room, and I am looking around this room, and there are a lot of you here, you are going to want to mark Saturday on your calendar because that's our kickoff for young adults for this semester. So, yay! And we have some pretty incredible leaders. We have this awesome couple, Sam and Talia Velicott. I know Sam is serving in kids ministry, but Talia is here somewhere. Are you here? There she is. There she's waving over there. So if you are a young adult, connect with Talia. She will give you the information. They're going to be at their place every side Saturday. So once a month they'll be doing it. So there'll be a table set up in the back lobby. Head over there, introduce yourself to Talia, and she will give you all the details that you need if you are a young adult. We also have child dedication classes starting. They start on November 9th. You sign up for those at mypac.tv as well. If you need other information about that, get in touch with Tamara. She'll be able to point you in the right direction and get you that information. Now tonight, super excited about this, our friends and our international workers from Mexico City, Ray and Cindy Perry, are here. Okay, woo, yes. Now, sadly, they're not here right now. They're actually in Nipawin. They're speaking to the congregation there, trying to give them some information about the next upcoming trips and hopefully pull together a multi-site team. But tonight, Ray and Cindy are going to be at Chris and Karis's house, and we're kind of having a come-and-go night where you can encourage them, and there'll be some sharing. And who Ray and Cindy are is they are our boots-on-the-ground people in Mexico City. And any of you who have gone on a Mexico missions trip, we know what Ray and Cindy do, right? They are our coordinators. They are our mentors. They are actually our mom and dad when they are there. They make sure we drink lots of water and all the different things. They have Band-Aids and every detail. They cover it all. They're also our friends, and they're also our family when we're there. And they're just so intentional about taking all that we are learning and receiving there so that we can kind of bring it home with us and find ways to kind of really have it sink into our hearts. What I also love about, I had a really good thing I was going to say about Ray and Cindy, and wow, that is a menopause moment. It is like, sorry about that, people. Just talk amongst yourselves. It'll come back to me. No, I'm just kidding. I'll carry on, and hopefully I'll get it. So if you are someone who has gone on a Mexico missions trip, if you are someone who is interested in going on a Mexico missions trip, if you are between the ages of 18 and 25 and you're thinking about international missions as maybe something you want to explore, they have an internship program that is just awesome. There is a video that we will watch that will tell you a little bit about that. That's us. Okay, so now I remember the good thing I was going to say. So Ray and Cindy, as you can see by that video, they have made some amazing connections with the people in Mexico City and the different places there. So when we go, they are the ones who connect us with Sahid and Lulu at the children's home and make sure everything, we kind of have good things to do there. They also connect us with this organization called Corazon Valiente that actually really serves the entire Mexico City. And so that's just really great. They do so many good things. So come to Chris and Karis's 6:30 to 8:30 tonight. Bring your own chair, and it'll be an opportunity for you to support and care for Ray and Cindy, as well as them share with us. So, awesome. I'm going to invite you to stand up on your feet. We're going to say our side week prayer together as we prepare our hearts to be ready to receive what God has for us today. Jesus, thank you that I am a sheep in your large flock. Thank you for new eyes to see, those I need to forgive, those who are lonely, those who need space, those ready to give up, those who need encouragement, and those who need to know that they are welcome here. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for your love to care for these, my brothers and sisters. In your name, amen. Stay standing as we sing.
So as you can tell from our prayer, and how good that is. This next song we're going to sing is a favorite of mine. And it just talks about Jesus resurrecting from the dead, and it's the heart of our gospel. So join us as we sing this song. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope, with no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, ash was redeemed, only beauty remains. My orphan heart was given a name. My morning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom you faithfully bore. He past. Darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. Then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Oh, your grace is so free, washes over me. You have made me new now. Life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new now. Life begins with you. We're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever amen. When death was arrested and our life began. We're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yes, we're free, free, forever amen. Where death was arrested and our life began. Where death was arrested and our life began. Where death was arrested and our life
Sing this out. Your word is a lamp unto my feet. Your way is the only way for me. It's a narrow road that leads to life, but I want to be on it. It's a narrow road, but mercy's wide, 'cause you're good and your promise. Take you at your word. You said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. You started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. You spoke, and the chaos fell in line. I know, 'cause I've seen it in my life. It's a narrow road that leads to life, but I want to be on it. Oh, it's a narrow road, the tide is high, 'cause you parted the water. I'll take you at your word. You said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. You started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. You said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. You started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. Oh, it's good in your promise. I'll take you at your word. Oh, you said your love will never give up. You said your grace is always enough. You said your heart would never forget or forsake me. You said I'm saved, you called me yours. You said my future's full of your hope. You never fail, so I know that you'll never fail me. Come on, sing it out. You said your love will never give up. You said your grace is always enough. You said your heart will never forget or forsake me. You said I'm safe, you called me yours. You said your future's full of our hope. You never fail, so I know that you'll never fail me. I'll take you at your word. You said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. If you started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. You said it, I'll believe it. I've seen how good it works. If you started, you'll complete it. I'll take you at your word. Oh, you're good at your promise. I'll take you at your word. Oh, I'll take you at your word.
Alrighty, so like I said before, this is Side Week, so go say hi to someone, and I encourage you to say hi to somebody who you haven't seen here before. Say hi to someone new, someone you don't know, and we'll have a timer.
In the beginning, God created all things, all peoples.
And God called them very good.
For generations, this land was home to the Dakota, Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Assiniboine, and Dene peoples.
And God loved them.
And God still does.
And God was working.
And God is still working.
Today we gather as pack to worship this Creator, God, on Treaty 1, 2, and 3 land, the homeland of the Métis Nation.
So let's learn.
Let's discover.
Let's hear.
Let's listen.
Jesus is working. we are listening.
Morning, everybody. Good to see you all this morning. Before I introduce our guest, I want to talk a little bit about the series We Are Listening and calibrate how we listen. The temptation, it'd be understandable because of the country we live in, the temptation would be to listen this morning and through this series with Canadian ears instead of Christian ones. So if you're listening with Canadian ears, there's going to be political filters that you're listening with. You're going to be asking questions about taxes, and compensation, and history. And that's not what we're doing in this series. We're listening with Christian ears from the perspective of the Savior that we follow, whose debut sermon set the trajectory for all of us all the time. Said that he has come to preach good news, that the prisoners will be freed, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free. So we're listening as people that follow somebody who wants good things for people and who wants to bring healing, not people who need to make up our minds about political issues. So it's good you live in Canada, but your primary allegiance is that you're Christian. So let's listen with those ears this morning. There you go, buddy. I tuned everybody up. This is Colin James, longtime friend of mine. We connected here in grade 7 at West Park School, and then our paths have been guided, is I think the word we want to use, to cross several times. And a place that was really formative for me was when I came to a funeral of a few of the students here at West Park School. Their mom had passed away, and she was a relative of yours, and I was nervous. This was pretty early on in our journey as a church with these things, and it was my first time going to an event at Long Plain, and I went to the Spirit Lodge, and I was nervous, walking past a row of guys that all kind of looked like you. Fairly intimidating row of guys leaning there watching this white guy come to the funeral, and you smirked and said, "Nathan Weselake, what are you doing here?" And it immediately dialed down my anxiety, and I felt welcomed, and I'm hoping that you experience much the same visiting us here. So welcome. Let's give them a round of applause.
Check, 1, 2. Okay, I'm on.
All right, good. All right. Let's
Trying to be quiet, but
No, that's not the point, and you're not very good at being quiet anyway.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk first just a little bit about what it was like to grow up as a Dakota in Portage la Prairie, and then we'll get into some of these pictures and slides we want to run through with people.
All right. Well, my name's Colin James. I'm from Dakota Teepee. My auntie's here. My cousin is here, so I gotta say it in Dakota. Hemie, Wika Yuha Naja Hukshida Emakiapi, Dakota Teepee, Hemate. I'm from Dakota Teepee. My name is my Dakota name is Standing with an Eagle Feather, and when I growing up in Portage was rough, you know. Like, we have that Portage la Prairie is about top 3 worst places to live in Canada. So we seen that on what is it, Maclean's magazine, stuff like that. Back in the 80s, it was like, oh geez, you gotta stand up for yourself. You're gonna get bullied. So being young, being who I am, I had to stand up for myself, and I had to. If somebody said something, I'd have to retaliate or do something like that. So going to Portage School was an experience. You know, you're going to get the bullies and stuff like that. I actually was a bully too sometimes. It was like, well, somebody's got to. So I'll own up to that. But when it came to teachers and stuff like that, I was one of the ones that would actually stand up to the teachers too. I was kind of a rebellious youth. one of my teachers is talking about, oh, this is Canada, and I grew up under the notion, my elders always said, you're Dakota before anything else. So it's cool that you guys are Christians before you guys are Canadians. You'll understand where I'm coming from. So being Dakota, we're taught something in the public school that we are Canadians, and I'm telling my teacher, no, I'm not a Canadian, I'm Dakota. And he's like, well, you're born in Canada. I'm like, no, Canada's born in my land. You know, like, hold on here. So I had that little bit of like, I got to stand up for what I've been told, what our elders have said and stuff like that. So doing that, it kind of led me to be rebellious and eventually I got kicked out of Portage la Prairie School Division, and they had no place to send me. All of a sudden I end up in West Park, and I'm like,
let's keep going on what got you in trouble there a little bit with your teacher when you're like 13 years old, because it comes out of different perspectives on how things have shaken down in history. This is a Lakota elder, Floyd Westerman, and he brings to our attention, what did you call it?
the doctrine of discovery.
Doctrine of discovery. I would like to quote a very prejudicial doctrine that was handed down by the Supreme Court in 1823. It said that the Indian nations do not have title to their lands because they weren't Christians. That the first Christian nations to discover an area of heathen lands has the absolute title. This doctrine should be withdrawn and renounced to establish a new basis for relationship between Indigenous peoples and other peoples of the world. Now, you were saying that that doctrine has been renounced, but just recently.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago, and that's something that has shaped. Look at all these the different lands. I'm Sioux, so our Dakota territory.
I'll just fill in here, Colin. You guys can't see the printing, but that's okay. This pink here is the Dakota Sioux territory.
The Dakota Sioux territory. These are things that you're not taught in school, right? You're taught Canadian history, and Canadian history doesn't go back as far as they go back. So basically, somebody came and they said this, but our Dakota territory was where the buffalo were. And if you look, our Dakota territory went a little bit west or east of the Great Lakes up to Alaska and down to the Carolinas. And if you look at Carolinas, you look at a map, there's a map there that talks about a Santee River that runs in there. So Santee is a part of our Shakwe. That's the 7 council fires. So we were way down there. And then wherever the buffalo were, that's where we went. We were a buffalo people. I showed you some pictures of buffalo horns and stuff like that. But recently, if you look at Portage la Prairie, they're talking about the avenue being fixed. And they pulled up buffalo bones from there. They don't know how old they were or anything like that, but this was our territory. So we were always here. And Canadian history doesn't teach that. And so I sat back and I argued with our teachers. And our teachers, not the teachers here, but the teachers in Portage.
Thanks. Good plug. Good plug for West Park. We were always aware. So
I was a good kid here.
This is where the Dakota followed the migration patterns of the buffalo. You're proudly Dakota. What's your favorite thing about being Dakota?
My favorite thing about being Dakota is that we never signed no treaties. We're still a resilient nation. We still have that little bit of defiance in us. We're still here. That's the thing, is we're still here. You look at the treaties, everybody talks about treaties and stuff like that. Treaty 1, first thing they say in Treaty 1, and it's something that comes up when you go to the language that's being used. the language that our forefathers wasn't the English language, but the language that's used is always used against us. And in that Treaty 1, it says, they've ceded their rights to this land. As a Dakota, we've never ceded our rights to our lands. And that's something that I'm sitting back and I'm proud of. But if you look, that was a very big territory. So in that territory, to get control of that territory, there was lots of battles, lots of fights and stuff like that. And I'm sitting up here with a cowboy hat on. I'm sitting up here with cowboy boots on, black cowboy boots. There was a general down in the States, and my mom used to talk about one of our grandpas. Her grandpa used to say that his brother took off down to the Battle of the Little Bighorn. And in 1876, there's a General Custer. He said that he'd walk through the Sioux Nation with 100 men. And so he had 300 men, and he come looking for us. And he found us. He dressed up that day. He put on his best black hat. He put on his best black boots, and he went out to go run through the Dakota Nation with his 300 men. What he didn't know that happened in that battle was there was like 4,000 Dakotas, Northern Cheyenne. 300 men didn't do him. So out of that little, he wanted to eradicate us. It's always been there to eradicate the Indian, to eradicate the native people of this land. So out of that, we walked out with his cowboy boots and his cowboy hat, and our Dakota men, the older guys, they usually wear these. So that's a little bit of
there's the defiance,
the pride.
Yeah. So let's keep talking about the defiance, because I like it. It gives us an opportunity, because you're confident, proudly, defiantly Dakota. You're able to give us a window into what it feels like to be an Indigenous person that doesn't even have a hint of victim in it. And I appreciate that you've done that with me, and I want to unpack for some of the people here some of the conversations we've had. Let's start, though, with your recent experience in a store here in Portage.
Well, you guys took me to a hockey game. You seen I walked into no knock on Shoppers Drug Mart, but it's open late, right? So I have to go pick up some medications, and I'm off to get a water. The water is on the east side of Shoppers Drug Mart. It's on that wall, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go grab my water, and all of a sudden over the loudspeakers I hear security cameras on the east side, and I'm like, what? I'm looking around late at night. I'm the only guy sitting in Shoppers, so I'm like, dang, they're watching me. And even going into like the different stores in Portage la Prairie as a Native person, you walk in, you're treated different. And it comes up as, oh, I want to, you poke the bear so much, the bear's going to growl at you. And I want to say something sometimes, but it's like, okay, well, I'll just let this slide. I'll let this slide. And even going to get water, and like the big water jugs, we got a water cooler at home. I go and I pay for my water, and I pay for the lids, and I go fill up my water. I'm walking out. All of a sudden, I'm getting stopped at the door, and this guy's looking at my receipt, and he's like, where are these 69-cent caps? I don't see these 69-cent caps. I'm like, dang, if I'm going to steal a 69-cent cap, I'm paying for water here.
Well, when we were in Thunder Bay with Howard, who's coming next week, we were checking out of our hotel, and I'm just checking out of the hotel. They wouldn't let you go until they checked your room.
Yep.
I was livid, and you were like, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
And then, so you've got a lifetime of that kind of suspicion that you've been on the receiving end of. And then there's, at the hockey game there, you can see how poised it is, how ready you are as an Indigenous person to expect that. Because we were buying coffees. I bought him a coffee, generous guy that I am. It's like, what did we call it? It's like the diabetic special.
Yeah.
It's like 4 sugars, 4 creams. It's an embarrassing thing to order. And so we go through the line, and it's the Canada Life Center. So
This is from the guy who's stealing my Timbits.
You're interrupting my flow. You're interrupting my flow. So we get through the line, we buy the coffees, and you wanted Timbits, and she had moved on to the next person, which from my white guy perspective, I'm like, oh, she just missed us. But you've had that happen 1,000 times where somebody hasn't paid attention to you or somebody's wanted you out of the way, and I can tell you're starting to bristle in this encounter in a way, and you looked around and saw what was going on, and it didn't turn into anything, but I was like, there's been trauma throughout your life and life of your people that it positions themselves for that kind of response, and that stress is hard to carry. We'll get into that in a little bit, but let's move into residential school stuff. I'll read this one, and then you can read the next one. So this is, well, actually, let's backtrack a little bit, because in the first service and in our conversations, we talked a little bit through this idea of they're not all like that. So here's the thing that somebody who has a moment of enlightenment in a hockey dressing room I've heard say. We'll play with a guy like Donnie Smoke for a while, and pretty good guy, and he'll leave the dressing room, and somebody will lean over and say, I like that Donnie Smoke, a pretty good Indigenous guy. They're not all like that. So there's that phrase, they're not all like that. And then there's the other tension of when an Indigenous teenager goes into a store, and I've seen that with Troy and Adriel, they get attention. A shopkeeper would say, I'm not racist, I'm just paying attention to crime stats. Talk about those two. You can just feel the tension in the room go up as I bring that, which is good. That's what we got you here for. Talk about those two things so first of all, they're not all like that, because you say that about Christians as well, right? As you've gotten to know some that have actually wanted to give more than take. So just riff on those two things for a while.
We sit back. This is a truth and reconciliation, right? So we're sitting back and we're talking. We sat back with somebody before and we talked about reconciliation. I told you guys, pay attention to the words that are used. Reconciliation, if you look it up, then reconciliation is the mending between two different parties. And two different parties, what did the Indians do to you guys? We were here before you guys got to your land. Or, I said that before. And it's like, whoa, reconciliation is the mending between two parties. So I look back and I was like, okay, but we sit back and we look at the different words and how they come. We talk about the Christians, and when we sit back, my elders, they talked about the pastor, the priest coming to the reserve a long time ago. And this pastor, he'd come in and he'd pull out candies and he'd give candies to the old guys, but they were young back then. And he got them conditioned where they'd come and they'd be like, okay, we're going to expect this guy's going to give us candy. And what happened was he pulls up and he's going to offer some candy, but he throws the elders in the car and he takes them off to residential school. And so that's, okay, well, that's some of the older people looking at Christians and they're like, well, what do they want? What are they doing? What's the underlying, what are they coming to our reserve to do? When we sit back and it happened with Nathan, right? Nathan come to the reserve and they're looking at, oh, this is my buddy, this is senior pastor. And we sit back and we talk where when I met Nathan back again, I'm like, Nathan, you're not going to change me. I'm not going to change you, but we're going to be bros. And we're going to do what we got to do. And Nathan is like, all right, I like that. And so we sit back and we talk, and there's never been a time where Nathan's had a secret agenda. or he's gonna try and change me. And that's something that Christians have done before, is that they've come to our communities and they've always tried to save us.
Yeah, well, here's a gut-wrenching summary by the Prime Minister of that kind of idea. When the school is on the reserve, the child lives with its parents, who are savages, and though he may learn to read and write, his habits and training mode of thought are Indian. He is simply a savage who can read and write. It's been strongly impressed upon myself, as head of the department, that Indian children should be withdrawn as much as possible from the parental influence, and the only way to do that would be to put them in central training industrial schools where they will acquire the habits and modes of thought of white men. Now, you've had... Oh, I'll read this. Actually, you read this one. This is somebody bearing witness at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission who's been through this.
It can start with a knock on the door one morning. It is the local Indian agent or the parish priest or perhaps a mounted police officer, the RCMP. The bus for the residential school leaves that morning. It is a day that parents have long been dreading. Even the children have been warned in advance. The morning's events are still a shock. The officials have arrived and the children must go. For tens of thousands of Aboriginal children over a century, this was the beginning of their residential schooling. They were torn from their parents, who often surrendered them only under the threat of prosecution. It's hard to sit back and to look at what is done. It's hard to listen. I've sat with my uncles and my aunties, my older cousins that have talked about residential school. I'm not a residential school survivor. I'm an intergenerational survivor. My mom was a residential school. She was in residential school. And I asked her to come today, but somebody slept in, so I usually have my mom beside me when I talk. And I've talked with Kasler, did the walk to the residential school, and when the 215 bodies were found. But when you hear the stories that are told, it's hard not to feel. When you hear it's hard not to have the empathy for the ones that you love, the elders, the older ones that have lived it. And I'm sitting back and I'm listening to my uncle or my aunt or one of my, even my mom, talk about the different abuses that they went through. It's hard not to be angry. It's hard not to, this was a thing where they didn't want us to be who we are. And if you look, these are teepees that are set up. This is Pine Ridge. They wanted to be close to their kids. If you can imagine that day that they were talking about the reserve, I talked to the elders who had their kids taken, and they said, nowadays, if you go to the reserve, you can hear, I live right by the park, our little playground, and I can hear my grandkids, my nieces, my nephews. I can hear them all screaming, yelling, and everything like that. But the older ones, they say they can remember when all the kids were taken from the res, how quiet the reserve would be. There wouldn't be no laughing, there wouldn't be no kids playing, there wouldn't be no... And that's something that you hear when you come to the reserve. I sit back and I look at my granddaughter and I think, whoa, imagine being in that place where I have to let go of my granddaughter, where she's going to be taken. She's coming up to that age where she would have been taken. I walk into the house and I'm, because that's how you say hi in Dakota. And my little granddaughter, she's just learning, but she comes running up, and it's like, dang, that just fills your heart. But she's supposed to say, but but it's a start, We're still trying to teach what the residential school has taken away, which is our language, our way of life. They take away the youth. They're taking away that generation. And I'm lucky that I come from a family, my family sitting in the back there, I'm lucky I come from a family that has that resilience and that defiance. I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud to be Dakota. That's something that's been instilled in me with my family, and we're still fighting what was put on us, the loss of language, the loss of culture. We're still resilient and we're still fighting. And my cousin Donna is one of our language teachers, and having her teach our language and teach our language to our youth is something that, we're still defiant, we're still living, we're still here. As much as General Custer wanted to wipe us off the earth, we're still here.
Let's live in that just a little bit longer. There was a moment I had that was, sometimes God just surprises you with moments of empathy, and it was at a church in Montreal after our speaker from next week, Howard, had just sang a song about the unmarked graves, and then they had planned to do another couple songs as a congregation. And in that church, after you finish singing, all the children are in the room, and they come to the front, line up in front of the stage, and are prayed for, and then they go and do kids' church somewhere else. So it was this very small picture of kids leaving a space, let's say, and the worship leader couldn't pray for them. The weight of what something like this would feel like. And then the trauma, talk about intergenerational trauma.
They
and
talk
the cortisol, because this is the answer to the crime statistics and those sorts of social indicators, because there's something that happens with intergenerational trauma that if you understand, it creates incredible empathy and a way forward. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
The intergenerational trauma, I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. I do quite a bit of things for my community and stuff like that. But when we get to the traumas, the things that they've lived through, we talk about our grandparents and our parents and stuff like that. When you're in a stressful situation, the body releases cortisol, and cortisol is a thing that gets you the stress that's built up, and this cortisol, it builds up in you, and you're like, if you ever feel anxiety or the stress or like something's coming up here and speaking, somebody'd be like, oh no, like they'd have that stress. But if you feel that every day, that cortisol is going to build up in your body. Those are what our grandparents have went through. And then when they say intergenerational trauma, then that cortisol is passed from one generation to another. They're susceptible to having that cortisol in them. So when we talk about me getting a little bit irked at somebody who's not, who's looking at my receipt for 69 cents, I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, this is a stressor. This is something that, I'm susceptible to have that cortisol released into me because my mom has lived through that stress, because my grandpas have lived through that stress, because our Kushis have lived through that stress. All these different things, eventually a person can't deal with it. What are they going to turn to? What's an easy thing to turn to is drugs and alcohol. Drugs and alcohol, we talk about the statistics and stuff like that. I walk in and they're looking at my skin color. They're looking at this big Indian guy walking in, going to steal some water off them. And I'm like, no, it's not how it is. But I'm going to get a little bit angry. They're poking the bear. They're poking the bear. They're poking the bear. If you look at our older ones, the things, like I said, the things that they've gone through, they're susceptible to that stress. They're in there that they have the heart conditions, they have the diabetes, they have all these things. Your body builds up and your body can't release these things. So, like I said before, I'm going to die before Nathan, and there's no laugh.
Yeah. In the first service, he just laughed his head off when he said that. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good one.
Nathan got sad, but we're like, whoa. Time goes fast here, innit?
We got a little bit extra.
Okay.
We got a couple pictures left here to go. So think about the trauma in here first.
Yeah.
And you've got trauma in your family tree that goes right from those battles in the States into residential schools, and then the aftermath of that. But this captures a lot of, this guy here captures a lot of the spirit in you. And then there's these young Indigenous men that need to watch the execution of this man who is refusing to give up their traditional ways. And
that's a picture from down south. One of my adopted moms down in, we have hunka ceremonies and stuff like that. We adopt a lot of family. One of my family down in Siston, she talked about our medicine people down there, the ones that they would live by the pipe, and she talked about her last name was Pipe Boy, so that pipe was a big part of her, and she talked about the Indian agents down there would come, and they gathered up all of our pipes, all of our ceremonial things, and they put them in the middle of this is in Siston, they put them in the middle of their fort, and they burnt them. And then they gathered the medicine people, the people that they didn't understand how they were doing what they were doing, and they executed them. They put their heads on a stake to show the native people around that fort that this is what it is, and the defiance. And for me, that little bit of defiance is, I was born this way. I was born Dakota, so I'm gonna live Dakota. I'm gonna live the way my grandparents, my mom want me to. I'm gonna continue to try and learn my language. I'm gonna continue to keep going and show my grandchildren, show my nephews, show my nieces, show them, because that's what was intended, was that we weren't supposed to be here. Dakota is not supposed to be here. And that all the different policies and things that guy standing up there, that captures our heart. The different policies that were put in place, the different things, we can't not stop being who we are. And as Christians, I know when I listen to my cousins that do go to church and that do pray that way, our ways are similar and our ways are good. And your ways are good. Your ways are an amazing thing. So, don't stop being who you are. Don't enjoy your life. Enjoy what comes your way. Our ways are very similar, and our ways are that we are good people, and that's basically what it comes down to, isn't it?
Let's as you're talking, it reminded me of something you wanted us to cover. So we'll talk about that, and then I can pray for you.
Yeah.
You were remarking before we came up here, like, make sure we tell them about how we've been guided to this place. So you have a strong sense that the Creator has guided your steps to in improbable and unlikely ways. You want to talk about to find yourself here? This is your first time in church.
This is my first time at church. I've never been to church before. I used to work as a medic up in Norway House, and being a medic, you see people at their worst things. You see a lot of trauma, and when I'd take in somebody, they'd look at me and they'd be like, "How do you get through this?" because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't hide from the traumas in life. I pray about it. And a lot of the people that I worked with, they drugs and alcohol would be their key. But me, I had my sweat, so I'd go in, I'd wash off the things that it would be traumatic to people. And one of the nurses said, how do you do that? Like, have you ever been to church? I'm like, no, I don't. I do things my way. And she's like, I can't believe you haven't been to church. Have you been baptized? I'm like, no, I haven't. I haven't been to church. How are they going to do that to me?
We can sneak up on you. Yeah. Bring in the...
I'm watching my background.
Yeah, you're watching okay. Yeah.
But one of the things is like, I know I'm looked after because I have my Dakota name. That's my spirit name. So when I come back and we start to sit back and we start to hang out, we start to do the different things, we start to talk about this and that, even with Michael Kasler, who's in, and Paul, his dad. It's amazing the things that come out of us praying together. Like I said, I've never been to church before, but hey, I'm here. Us praying together has moved, like the Spirit has guided us in different ways that are beyond what we could think. Like I was sitting back with Mike and Paul, and they come to a ceremony, and all of a sudden we're talking about. I was having an addiction ceremony where we're sitting back and we're going to have our sweat. And I asked Mike and Paul to come in because they are, Paul has worked in that field for so long. I still love the guidance. And when he come in, he's like, you know who my teacher was? He said, my teacher was Gladys Cook. I'm like, that's my auntie. And he's like, I got something for you. I got to show you. And he brought us back this wheel. And this wheel was like a 12-step, but it was in a native perspective. And we're like, whoa. And from there, we in that ceremony was born a way for me to help, and a way for one of my brothers on the reserve, John. He's jumped right into those teachings and those things. And it's like, this is so amazing. And then you too, when we talk about all of a sudden, one of the things that we talked about was, okay, well, how can the church, if you look at the articles in the Truth and Reconciliation, there's 3 different articles, and Article 58 through 61. And these articles, they ask the questions, how does the church reconcile? How does the church do this and that? And out of there, we had this, Nathan came and he asked me, so what do you think about this reconciliation? And I'm like, reconciliation? I explained to you guys what that word meant. So, okay, well, we don't want this reconciliation, but how can the church undo what they've done? That was our question, and we sat back and we're like, oh, we got some toys here. We got some video cameras. We got some, and I went back and I sat with, my wife is from Rolling River, and I sat back with an elder, and this elder, he sang a song, and one of my uncles taught me this song, and this song was my uncle taught me, and he didn't put the words in it, and the words mean a lot. So my uncle passed away, and I was like, well, I got to hear this song somewhere. I got to hear this song. And I went to this funeral, and this old guy, he was sitting there, and he sang this song that my uncle taught me. And it was in Ojibwe. I'm not Ojibwe, but I was like, man, I know that song. My uncle taught me that song. What does that song mean? And so he sat back and he explained in Ojibwe, this is what this song means. And at the end, when he sat back, he said, you know, there used to be so many people that would come and sit by the drum, and they'd learn these different songs. They're all gone now. He said, where's our youth? Where's these people? Oh, and I looked, and when I looked at that community, and I'm like, dang, you know, when this old guy passes, that's going to be something that's lost. So out of there, we got our answer. We were like, oh, you know, let's try and preserve as much as we can out of what was trying to be taken away, out of what was trying to be wiped out.
Yeah, it was beautiful how that came together. You guys know the story of the airplane and recording the songs, and Colin's giving you some of the heart behind it in the backstory. But even before that, we were praying for your wife. She was going for surgery, and it was interesting because it was an early conversation with us, and we were going to pray for her health and healing. And I was like, "Are you okay with me praying in Jesus' name?" You're like, "Yeah, absolutely. Your prayers have power." And then again here, but you're more than happy for us to pray for you. But there was an interesting thing that is worth understanding. What's carried inside of you and your people is this real careful attention to language and posture that would never be, that what we do here would never need to be misunderstood as you being subservient or in any way underneath what we're doing. Because I asked you if we could pray for you, and you're like, as long as I can stand up. Because the image in his mind of when a white man prays for an Indian is of the priest standing and the Indigenous person kneeling. That's not what we're doing here.
No.
We want to bless you. So how we bless people here is arms up to reach toward him. You get your big, tall carcass up there, and I will put my hand on you, and we will together as a community bless you.
When we talked to, we're like, okay, Nath, I gotta stand because I don't the language, right?
Yep.
I can't be underneath you. I gotta be right beside you. We gotta be brothers through this, and that's something when I sit back and I look at my wife, she's had heart surgery, she's had open heart surgery, she's had a kidney transplant, and this kidney transplant came from, they're cueing the music, man.
That's okay. So it's kind of like the Oscars. They'll just keep going. Yeah. Eventually,
and I'd like to thank, I got to shout out to my Kashi Donnie in the back.
We were gonna cut to a commercial for Shoppers Drug Mart, but they've pulled their sponsorship. Yeah, they pulled no more Shoppers. So anyway, finish up your thought, and then we'll pray for you.
And I believe in the power of prayer, and the power of prayer. When I was in here and you guys were all singing and you guys were up there, you can feel that power, you can feel that energy move, and it's beautiful. And when Nathan come and he's, can I pray for you, bro? When Mike comes and he says, can I pray for you, bro? Those prayers help. And when I say, okay, bro, I'm gonna pray for you, I'm gonna say a prayer, or I'm gonna make sure they don't turn down those prayers either, because those prayers are something that we all need. And those prayers, like I said, all the trauma that I've seen in my life as a medic, as a Native person, those things are prayer is a powerful thing that gets us through it. So, hope.
All right.
My carcass.
Why don't you extend a hand towards Colin and join me in blessing him. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, we call on you to powerfully bless Colin James with power to bring peace and hope to the people that he cares for and ministers to. We ask you to bring strength as the weight on his shoulder increases, that he would find lightness there and the presence of the Creator sustaining him. We bless him with health in his household. We bless him with energy for his kids and his grandkids. We honor him for his courage to come here today. I ask that in the days and weeks to come, there would be good things that happen in his life, and that by your Spirit, they would multiply to the people around him. We thank you for him. We seal him with the presence of the Creator to go do the things that he has been called on to do. We bless him in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Thanks, man.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship so alive, I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises so alive, God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. Oh, and as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature so alive, I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you so alive, so will I. So will I. chase down my heart through all of my failures and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you so alive, I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art for love. If you gladly chose surrender so alive, I can see your heart in a billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. You gave your life to love them so alive. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind.
I'll invite you to close your eyes. Jesus, so much has gone wrong. So much has gone wrong. And so much is broken. Help us to be Christian. May we be filled to overflowing with the love of God. Actually, let's put that on the screen. Let's say that together. Can you back that up? There we go. Would you join me? May we be filled to overflowing with the love of God, and as His true sons and daughters, be filled with His power to love, reconcile, and heal. May we bring together the things once torn apart and stand as family, side by side, united in His love. Amen. I think Colin just stepped out for a smoke, but we'll bring him back in. And if you want to come and say hi, that would be great. There is the prayer team up here as well to help you process where the Lord has taken you and pray through those things. Next week, our director, National Director of Indigenous Ministry, Mr. Howard Jolie, is here, and you will enjoy hearing from him as well. So grace and peace, everyone. Have a great afternoon.